Okay, everyone. Today is October 10th, and we have a special guest on the call today. I just want to let everybody know I am not going to be doing an Iraqi update. There isn't a lot going on in Iraq. Today's session for Wednesday, due to signature issues, I'm not really sure what's going on, so we just got to wait until Wednesday to see what's going on with that. And then many nations are addressing their people to get their citizens out of Iran. So it seems like there's a lot of uprise about to happen in Iran. So including Iraq. Iraq was also a country to advise their people out. Okay, so we have a special guest here today. His name's Shad. He grew up in Oregon. After high school, he joined the Army as a signals intelligence analyst, which is a fancy word of saying spy. He served in the Army for 10 years, carrying out top secret security clearance. He served as an 82nd Airborne Division and became a jump master during that time. His unit was a part of the invasion of Panama, Central America. He served with the Persian Gulf, Desert Shield, Desert Storm in Saudi Arabia and Iraq, which is very cool. The unit he was involved with was responsible for the destruction of approximately 15 Soviet mobile SCUD missile launchers. Did I say that right? Yes. And I can't hear you, by the way.
It's good.
Okay, let me make sure that you're unmuted. He's worked in various parts of Europe, including Germany and with NATO forces. He's also served with the Balkan War and during the breakup of Yugoslavia. This was when he shook hands with Bill Clinton, and he can tell us a little bit about that during his presentation. After the military, he had near 2 decades career in software engineering in Seattle area, gaining a very unique perspective on software industry that has become a primary weapon system of the very cabal attempting to depopulate the planet, utilizing some of the very things that he helped create. Over the past 2 years, he's provided disclosure intelligence on Telegram platform, running the channel Majestic 12 Hub, providing high-level view of geopolitical situations during the Great Awakening. Based on his privilege of knowledge, experiences, and critical analyst of information being disclosed to humanity. He's got skills and was trained to help eliminate information hidden in plain sight. He has 3 daughters, 3 children, and another on the way. And his goal is to help awaken as many as possible, and not only the threat we collectively face, but to also provide key insight into knowledge that's been concealed from humanity in nefarious purposes and knowledge that we have a divine right to adopt into our lives. He also says amazing things are about to unfold. A bright future awaits us. I'm excited to hear his presentation today. Shad, welcome to our platform.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited. The anticipation has built up over the last few hours here. So let me make sure that it's on the speaker. And we're going to jump right into this call because this presentation is an hour. So
okay. Thank you very much for having me. This presentation that I'm going to give today is called ISBE, Who and What We Are. And this is basically a journey down the Q and Majestic esoteric rabbit hole. And the reason behind this is to try and get an understanding of some of the things that we're all faced with as far as the difficulties that we run into, whether it's human trafficking, whether it's the children, whether it's war. All these different chaotic things are impacting all of our lives, and we're trying to make sense of it. So I created this presentation to try and help people understand this at a higher level. And I wanted to start off with this one particular video from Robert Dean that is a good segue into what I want to share with you today. So go ahead and play this one.
This is the greatest story in human history. It's never been told. It must be told, and it will be told eventually. And if we can wake people up to realize who they are and why they're here, that'll be a good beginning. We have had an intimate interrelationship with advanced intelligence from the stars from the beginning of human history. And that intimate interrelationship is still underway.
So I shared that presentation from Robert Dean to highlight one aspect that he said, which is us getting to know who and what we are and why we've been visited for so long. So I have three primary goals with this presentation that I wanted to give everybody today. The first of which, go ahead and click next. The first of which is I want to inspire you with some information. I want to try and light a fire underneath you, because this information I feel is very pertinent to the situation we are in globally, and moving forward. I think this will be able to arm everybody with some really fantastic knowledge. Next. The next thing I want to do is I want to give you tools to use that you can capitalize upon to help elevate you. And by extension, those people that are directly connected with you, your family, friends, coworkers, people you care about. And finally, is I want to give you hope, because right now, the way the world feels like it's falling apart, and it seems like we're heading toward annihilation and Armageddon and all these really negative things. I want to give you hope in the fact that quite the opposite is true, and that we're heading towards something truly spectacular. So a little bit of background. The Majestic 12 hub on Telegram is built on three foundational pillars. These components really helped formulate some of the background and some of the core information that leads people in a lot of different directions. The first of which is all the Q drops. I don't know how many people here are familiar with them, but if you haven't taken the time to read these, you're doing yourself a grave injustice. They paint a picture that has been hidden from humanity. The next pillar is the Majestic Disclosure document. This was created by a guy who goes by the handle Nunchuck on Twitter. And what he did was he took all of the Majestic 12 tweets over the course of a little over 3 years, and he made a book, a pamphlet, if you will, that was categorized into different topics that were discussed over those 3 years. So it's to help formulate a picture on different subject areas. And finally, the next one is a book by Lawrence Spencer called Alien Interview. And we'll be going into that here next. Very, very enlightening. So when you combine all three of these key areas, it really helps create a very high level picture of what's going on. Now, I did start off with Robert Dean talking about ETs and stuff. I want to preface this presentation. I'm going to show you some things, but the primary meat, the primary focus of this presentation is on you, us, humans, and you'll soon learn why that's the case. During the Q drop period, there was two particular Q drops that were released that deal with the subject of ETs. This one in particular asked Q. There's a person on the boards that asked Q, are UFOs a distraction? And a lot of these Q drops are meant to basically get you to think for yourself. He's using the Socratic method. And so if you're interpreting these things on your own, I have my own interpretation of this. And I feel that right now, the way the Earth is situated geopolitically, yes, they're a bit of a distraction, because we have a whole bunch of problems here on this planet. We don't want to be taking them off into the cosmos. So we need to focus on cleaning up our own mess. And then somebody else later on asked, "Are we alone?" And they referenced Roswell. And obviously, Q's response is self-explanatory. I think this pretty much answers that question all on its own. A picture is worth 1,000 words. We have never been alone, and it's not just this one particular species. So I give this particular slide as a caveat. If people are interested in actually wanting to communicate with extraterrestrials that are here on Earth right now that are doing it, I would recommend that you go onto Twitter for Sandia Wisdom. This is the Ponti Nation, or the civilization Ponti, and they've been active on Twitter, and they have a liaison. Her name is Sue Walker. And there's a short video on their official First Contact website. but I highlight this one to specifically call out the telepathy primer. This can give you some foundational information on utilizing an innate gift that we all have that we just don't know how to use, and so on and so forth. So another area, aside from the ETs, is the UFOs. Obviously, if you spend any time on Telegram alone, you're going to see a whole bunch. So this, there's an ocean of information out there, but this again, and I'm going to preface this. Next slide.
Question. So are these aircrafts right here, you're saying that humans and aliens are flying them?
So the one on the top left is called the Black Knight satellite. The one in the middle is a Nazi, I can never pronounce the name. It starts with an H. I'll just butcher it if I try to pronounce it. The one on the bottom left, that's a TR-3B. And then that one is actually a living organism that is housed in S4. And there's a whole bunch more. But again, I didn't want to, we have this technology and we've reversed engineered a whole bunch. But if you want to find out more information on UFOs, this is your guy, Vladimir Terziski. He is a walking Library of Congress with regard to a ton of information related to UFOs. He's a really excellent starting place. Got a bunch of lectures and presentations on YouTube and a bunch of other information. In fact, he is where I learned about this book on how to build a flying saucer. If you know how to build something, if you know the recipe, if you know the environment in which you live, which we have been lied to, or it's been basically concealed from us, it's just like any other recipe. You can build a cake, you can build a car, you can build a flying saucer. It's the same thing. You go out into your garage and do it. In fact, there's been quite a few people that have done this. So this person, his Salvatore Cesar Pais, he was working with the secret space program and helped develop certain patents related to anti-gravity and other things, free energy, namely. But if you go and look at the patents that are associated with some of these things for anti-gravity, you're gonna find a whole new world of information on these things. It's like back in 2019, in fact, this was when the Department of the Navy released several of these patents associated with him. His name literally translates to Savior of Our Nation. This is a David Wilcock tribute. So, but there's a huge rabbit hole just with this, and especially patents. There's a whole field of patents that I've put up in the hub, and each one leads you off in a multitude of different directions. I want to segue into the presentation I'm going to be giving by saying, if you want more information, a lot of people don't even know that this took place. This was the citizen hearing on UFO disclosure, where they talked about ETs and UFOs back in 2013, and it was a week-long conference that took place. And there's an ocean of information there. It's on YouTube. I would recommend, if you have the time, go check it out. Tons of information, tons. They had like 40 people come in from all over the world and shared a whole bunch of amazing information. So it's well worth your time. So as we segue into this presentation of what I want to give to you, I wanted to highlight one segment from the citizen hearing by Daniel Sheehan, and listen carefully to what he has to say.
Mr. Sheehan, would you address briefly what is the theological implication? Briefly.
Yeah, it's coming to grips with the full import of the theological reality is what undergirds all of this. Is that for each of us to recognize that we are incarnated in a material form, but that there are other vibrational frequencies at which there are other dimensions of reality going on at the same time. Our theology is the realm in which we deal with it. It's a category of knowledge in the human family in which we deal with other dimensions of reality. What happens after death? How did we get here? What are we doing here? What's our ultimate purpose? These are things that are raised by the UFO issue. And that's why I reiterate that it's theology, it's in the realm of theology that we have to come to address this. And when we do, what we're going to discover is that we're going to draw down into our culture a lot of those same realities that, for example, the Native American culture and some of the Aboriginal cultures understand, that they are in a dynamic relationship with other dimensions, other vibrational frequencies. And that our culture has closed itself off from that from the time of the Enlightenment, in trying to define ourselves as separated, individuated, intellectual beings, and that we're not in a harmonious, in balanced relationship with the rest of reality. The consequences, of course, are falling upon us now because of the global climate change that we're experiencing, the contamination of our environment by ourselves. And this is the crisis, I think, one of the crises that's going to confront us. And that my sense is that we're going to become much more, if we probe into the theology of all of this, we're going to come to have a much more profound appreciation for the Native American culture and the theology of the Native American culture and the faculty of intuitional perception that our human family has, which is a faculty that's evolving teleologically in our culture. And this is what Teilhard de Chardin has dealt with it within the Jesuits. It's the cutting edge of modern theology, and the insights that we've gained now through quantum physics since 1923 to 1926. We have to integrate into our scientific worldview the insights of quantum physics. And we have to begin to readjust our basic worldview, as I pointed out before, to evolve a new worldview that integrates these capabilities.
Thank you very much. I yield back to my time.
There are three basic primary topics for this presentation that I want to separate. The largest is going to be the biggest meat of this presentation. Is going to be the first area. So this is the area of ISBE. It's basically, I'm trying to give a deeper understanding about the real you, the truth behind who you actually are. The second is I'm going to touch on consciousness, and in this area, I want to dip our toes basically into the esoteric, which in some regards can rub people the wrong way. But at the deepest levels, the esoteric field, this body of knowledge, is the pursuit of the reunification of ourselves with God, the all or source, the one, however you want to label it. It is that path. And then finally, thirdly, I want to give you tools to help you wake up. I want to give you the ability to utilize this, not only this knowledge, but certain tools that can help you reclaim your birthright. So here we go, starting off with ISBE. Okay, so I need to give a little bit of background on ISBE and some information regarding that, where it came from and so on. So the term comes from this book, Alien Interview by Lawrence Spencer, and it was based on the notes provided by a woman. Her name's Matilda O'Donnell McElroy, and this was during the Roswell incident back in 1947. And on her deathbed, she gave this information to Lawrence. And one of the messages that she left is worth reading here. It's all ISBEs could be helped to become more aware of the actual situation on Earth through the information in this envelope. This is why I sent these letters and transcripts to you. I want you to get these documents published. I want ISBEs on Earth to have a chance to find out what is really happening on Earth. And Lawrence, he still runs that blog. He has a blog also on his website, alieninterview.org, and there's a ton of other information. The book itself, the back half of the book, is filled with resources. A tremendous resource in and of itself from people all over the world, a lot of background history there. So in Matilda's dealings, what she was basically hired to do from the military was to interview a survivor of one of the crashes. And that extraterrestrial went by the name of Errol. And through all of this body of knowledge that she was learning from Errol, one area in particular was just trying to get a label on an area, a topic that she didn't really comprehend. So this was a work in progress for her. This is her definition that she came up with. Personally, it's my conviction that all sentient beings are immortal spiritual beings. This includes human beings. For the sake of accuracy and simplicity, I will use a made-up word ISBE, because the primary nature of an immortal being is that they live in a timeless state of is, or is, however you want to pronounce it. And the only reason for their existence is that they decide to be. No matter how lowly their station in a society, every ISBE deserves the respect and treatment that I myself would like to receive from others. Each person on earth continues to be an ISBE, whether they are aware of that fact or not. And if we were this era back in the 50s, how everybody was very kind to one another, we've lost that. And so her philosophy of living a life, I wish we could reclaim that as we move forward. And I think that as we learn these things, I think that's a path that we're going to be going down. Now, during these interviews that you can read in the book, and the book itself I've put in the hub. It was actually one of the very first posts in the Majestic 12 hub on Twitter, or on Telegram. So Errol said some amazing things, and I'm going to highlight a couple. And one of them, he says, is no human being ever assumes personal responsibility for the fact that they themselves, individually and collectively, are gods. This fact alone is the source of entrapment for every ISBE. Now, let's pause for a second. Like, why would he say that? That's quite a statement coming from an extraterrestrial. What do they know that we don't? And it shouldn't shock us, because we've heard this before quite some time ago. Somebody said it more than once. So here we have an extraterrestrial and somebody from the Bible literally saying that ye are gods. Okay, well, that's great, but what does that mean? What kind of tangibility do we have to even begin to wrap our heads around this? Like, what does this even mean? Errol said something else that was equally important, among many other things that were incredible. Everything you will ever know about the creative force and ability of a god can be found within you, an immortal spiritual being. Okay, again, what are we looking for? What does that even mean? We look inside us like, okay, there's blood and guts and all this other stuff. What are you talking about? What look inside us for what? What do you mean? So from the Majestic disclosure document, remember this is a collection of tweets. Your immortal spiritual biological entity is your soul and your body. You are a combination of the two. You're an ISBE. All life in the universe are ISBEs. We are all the same. We are one. We are connected together through our pineal gland. Our consciousness comes from God or all or ISBE, however you want to label that. So again, we come back to the idea of what does it mean to look inside of us? What do we have that's tangible, that we can start creating this tapestry that have a higher understanding of exactly what we are? And so I've collected a few videos. They're rather short, but they can highlight certain things that when we put them together, they create a bigger picture. And what you're going to see here is it's called fluorescence microscopy, and this is human kidney cells under mitosis. And what I want you to do here is pay close attention to these green dots, because it's going to come up later. So as we're seeing here, it's like there's some sort of So I don't know about anybody else. This is a topic that I did not learn in high school biology class. It's like, what are we seeing here? What are those green energy things that are intelligently pulling apart the mitochondria of these kidney cells? And you know, it's like the process is repeated, and it's just amazing. What I want you to retain here for just a moment is remember the phrase shimmering moats, because it's going to come up in a little bit. And this was done at Florida State University, so it's not too far from here. So when we're dealing with other things that are inside of us, I'm trying to highlight key aspects of what's inside of us. And so here, I want to highlight what Dr. Valerie Hunt is showing with this equipment that she had back in the 70s to be able to actually film the human aura.
See that as the child moves into the mother's field, the affection between them changes the overall field to a pink color. Individuals' fields blend and enhance when there is a warm, caring relationship. These energy fields are the largest and the whitest that we have shown. She is oming. On the breath inhalation, the radiant field diminishes, and on exhalation, it expands and envelops the child. We have known for a long time that Gregorian chants, oming, humming, singing, and whistling create an energy which perks up emotions and brings an expanded consciousness.
Okay, so here we have this aura, this field of energy emanating from all of us. And the notes from the research there deals with the chakras. We're going to come back to that in a little bit, but there's a specific note how the chakras are tied in specifically with the endocrine system, the endocrine glands within our bodies. There's a direct physical relationship with that, and we'll touch on that in a little bit. So at this point, we've established that we have something inside of us at the cellular level that's participating in our daily life. Okay, we've also established that we have a physical energy field that we're emanating that's tied directly into our endocrine system and our chakra system. Here, I want to show you an excerpt from a film called Thrive that talks about what's referred to as the toroidal field.
In the same way that the torus is both distinct and unified, in human terms, we are all simultaneously both distinct individuals and one human family. Philosopher Ashok Gangadine explains how this can be.
So imagine at the core space of where we process our experience. And remember, all of our worldviews are in this space. We feel lonely and isolated and often impotent, so we're locked in. And our different worldviews compete for that space, for dominance. And so there's a lot of violence, chronic violence, and breakdown of relationships.
Ashok found the torus to be the first accurate scientific model that shows how each of us is a distinct individual, but also completely interconnected with all existence.
That this is already surrounded in the space of deep interconnectivity. Infinite, boundless, internet, the logosphere, whatever name, a holistic field of deep interconnectivity where there are no more separated objects, but dynamic, toroidal, interconnected, fractal fields of energy that we are already always surrounded. We ourselves right here, right now, always in this logosphere or this field of interconnectivity. So that you and I, in our conversation, our dialogue, are not separate objects cut off, but dynamic, interconnected fields. And this is where knowledge and science and compassion and human relations and love all can take place. And this has been the cumulative teaching of all of our teachings for the centuries. And that's where we're suggesting that humanity must move and expand and mature for survival and thrival.
Okay, so as you can see, we're starting to demonstrate, we're starting to see a larger component of our physiology as we tie these things together, because you can't separate them. They're all intertwined. They're all linked together. Okay, so as we start to build this body of knowledge and interrelated components, a couple of these things that we've seen, we're talking about energy, but what kind of energy are we dealing with? How much energy? What's going on? So this is an excerpt from Dr. Bruce Lipton's presentation, and he addresses the energy very specifically. So go ahead and hit play.
Every cell in your body has a minus voltage on the inside and positive voltage on the outside. Every cell, every live cell is a battery. Every cell has about 1.4 volts, not too much. But 50 trillion cells in the body times 1.4 volts is 700 trillion volts of electricity in your body right now. And with training and meditation, you can focus this energy called chi, and you can use that energy for healing.
Okay, so
that much voltage, people can self-combust.
So he's highlighting on just the sheer magnitude of the energy that's on tap, on reserve within us at any given point. It's like we're somebody, another person that gives these presentations referred to us as nuclear bombs with legs. We're super powerful, but it's dormant, and we have the ability to utilize this. So Bruce Lipton highlighted the fact that we can focus this chi, this energy, to do some things like healing. Well, do we have any examples of that? And so I'd like to show you an example of that. So in China, I think they've closed down this facility because of the success they were having. It's called the Huaqi Center, a medicineless hospital. And what they do is they practice utilizing the technique called Qigong, or life force energy medicine, if you will. And here, this video is dealing with a bladder cancer patient. And I think it's pretty amazing what they're going to do here.
Dinar has successfully treated more than 180 types of illnesses, including bladder cancer.
Okay, so what's going on here is this lab technician is using an ultrasound device, and she's going to basically take a snapshot. If you want to turn the volume down. So she's going to take a snapshot, and on the screen there is a picture of that tumor in his bladder. And so they're going to begin the process of utilizing their technique of Qigong, utilizing Qi energy to basically dissolve this in real time. And you can watch this tumor simply vanish. And so here are the practitioners actually doing this right now. And you'll see it slowly start to fade away. And there's no medicine. As they're doing their technique, you can see them. You'll be able to see the actual bladder tumor start to fade away. And so there's no medicine, there's no scalpels, it's just focused life force energy. I don't know what's wrong with this video. Here we go. So they've literally just removed this guy's bladder cancer with life force energy using this technique. And this is one of many that they've done. This is just an example of the process that they've utilized successfully at this facility. And this is one of many facilities around the world that have adopted this practice. Why isn't this mainstream? If we all have this capability, if we learn the techniques, that this practice has been around for thousands of years. Why isn't this replacing the things in the hospitals? So again, here we have an ability that we have within us to utilize this energy that's within us and all around us, from the energy that we've discovered resides within us. Okay, so this leads into another area, and I mean, I've literally got thousands that I could have picked from, but I'm trying to interrelate a lot of this information to paint the bigger picture. So this is an excerpt from a show called Missing Links. This is Greg Braden. And a lot of us learned back in high school that we have neurons in our brain, of course. But did you know that we have neurons in our hearts?
It's all about neurons. Neurons in the brain, and we're all familiar with those. Now we're talking about neurons in the heart. So I'd like for you to see, maybe for the first time, what those neurons really look like, how they function, what they do, and what they mean in your life, so that we can use this idea and you could have this mental imagery as you move forward and begin to connect your heart and your brain. So on your screen right now, what you're seeing is a typical neuron in the brain. The large nodule is the neuron itself, and the branches that come out are the neurites. So any appendage on the neuron is considered to be a neurite. The neurites can become a lot of things. They can become axions, if you're familiar with neurology. They can become a lot of different things, but these are what the neurites are all about. The next image that you're looking at right now, this is really exciting because these are some of the first images of the neurons. They're not in the brain. They're in the human heart. There's an organization, a pioneering research organization in Northern California, the Institute of Heart Math. HEART, capital MATH, but it's all one word. And they are pioneers at researching the human heart in non-conventional ways based on rock-solid science. They've made these images available to us today, so I can share them with you. So you're actually seeing the neurons in the human heart, and these are the neurons that begin to communicate with other neurons and form the network between the heart and the brain that enable the activities, all the things that we just talked about: subconscious access, super learning, super information processing, deep intuition on demand, all of those things. I want you to see how this happens. So I'm going to share with you a brief film clip. In this little clip, the technology now is so awesome. It allows us to see these neurons, not as still images, but we can actually see them functioning inside of living tissue. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is you're seeing neurons in time lapse, and you're seeing from the neurons, you're seeing the neurites as they move out. They're very social. They want to hook up. They want to connect. So these neurites are looking for other neurites to hook up with because they want to form a network. They want to form a chain. And when they do, like you're seeing right now, the red arrows on your screen are showing these networks connecting as well as disconnecting, a passing thought. This is what happens. When we have a passing thought, there's a connection, it's brief, and then that connection goes away. So as we see these images, I'm going to invite you to think about what this means in your life. Because when these neurons are growing, they are growing in response to something that you are doing in your life. The act of you striving to become something more in the next moments of your life than you were in the last moments. The act of you choosing to learn something new, to learn a new way to play your guitar, to play the piano, or a new form of art, or a new thinking in terms of solving a mathematic problem or a new book or a new play or a new sculpture. It is the act of creativity, the act of you triggering that creativity within your will, within your being. That act, that is the biological trigger that sets into motion the neurons that you have just seen as they begin to grow and seek out partnerships and connections with other neurons to match what it is that you have just asked them to do.
So the rest of that series talks about the relationship, this communication network between our physical heart and brain, and how there's a much larger picture that has never really been told to us. So we have this interdynamic, deeply entrenched relationship of our physiology on multiple levels, in fact, multiple dimensions, it's just been hidden from us. Okay, so one of the main topics in the Majestic 12 Hub dealing around consciousness has to deal with the pineal gland. And if I was to summarize and put it in the most simple of terms, if you could pause that real quick.
Serotonin and melatonin.
If I was to try and describe the pineal gland in the very simplest of terms, you can effectively describe this as your CB antenna into the quantum realm. This is actually incredible because this allows us so many other capabilities that we didn't know we had. One in particular is telepathy. This is the tool, but it's an antenna that these little crystals that are inside of it vibrate at a really fast rate, and they are able to communicate within the quantum realm in this energy field that surrounds us. So go ahead and play the slide. Start from the beginning. There we go.
The pineal gland is a very specific gland that makes serotonin and melatonin. And when that energy strikes that gland, all of a sudden it begins to produce very powerful metabolites, sister molecules. And all of a sudden now the brain becomes super lucid. And the brain waves that we start to measure are very, very high gamma brainwave patterns. Now the person is super conscious. Now there's more energy in the brain. When that happens, whatever's happening between their ears becomes more real. And in a sense, they're having an orgasm in the brain. They're going into a state of ecstasy. So then you're transmuting anger. You're transmuting fear. You're transmuting guilt. And so then the liberation of that energy, all of a sudden from this center all the way to the top of the brain, begins to create a powerful polarity. Positive charge at the head and negative charge at the tail, and the body becomes like a magnet. And all of a sudden you start to produce this invisible electromagnetic field. Now the body is liberating energy. Now, once the pineal gland is signaled, send a direct signal to the pituitary. The pituitary begins to release two very powerful metabolites called oxytocin and vasopressin. Oxytocin signals nitric oxide. Nitric oxide causes the arteries in the heart, begins to swell, and all of a sudden you feel an incredible amount of love. Oxytocin is the love chemical. When you feel love and gratitude, all of a sudden you're in a state of receivership. And then there's a reverse field that begins to come in the other direction. We've measured this. And that second chemical is called vasopressin. And what vasopressin does is it causes the cells to draw water. So people with chronic bladder infections, people with diverticulitis, people with food allergies and indigestion, acid reflux, they do the same breath, and it's just the liberation of energy. And once that energy starts to move and it starts to travel up to the brain, we've measured this on so many brain scans, we can actually predict when it's going to happen. When they inhale and they pull that energy all the way up into their brain, I ask them to hold their breath and squeeze those muscles a little bit more. And when you hold your breath and squeeze those muscles, you increase what's called intrathecal pressure. And intrathecal pressure is what you use when you lift something up and you push against your insides. Well, the pineal gland sits right at the base of the third ventricle. And inside the pineal gland are these tiny little calcium carbonate crystals. They're stacked rhombohedrons. They're stacked on top of each other. And if you find the research, and I found it, the pineal gland has been called a neuroendocrine transducer with piezoelectric properties.
Okay, so at this point, we're starting to see that we have a lot of different capabilities and physiological aspects within us. What else do we find? Next slide. Oh, I wanted to highlight one important aspect about the pineal gland. This is, in my view, the #1 reason why we have fluoride in our water and other toxins in our foods and water. If we have a calcified or this paste, this like toothpastey resin buildup that is encasing our pineal glands, where the crystals inside cannot vibrate, we are effectively turned off in our ability to communicate on a quantum level. So our pineal gland that we're born with and develop over time has basically been encrusted with this calcified paste. And so that's the primary reason why this cabal has utilized this toxicity in our lives. They don't want us waking up. They don't want us to communicate. And this is their biggest fear, bar none. When we can communicate telepathically with one another through the pineal gland, distance doesn't matter. We could be on one side of the room, the other side of the planet, the other side of the cosmos. Distance in the quantum realm is irrelevant. It's instantaneous wherever you're at. So from the Majestic disclosure document, just to highlight this one component, the mind's eye, or the third eye, or the sixth chakra, which is the pineal, contains more perception receptors than your two eyes combined. This organ is literally your exo-consciousness antenna, your CB radio to the universe, that enables you to remotely link to other sentient life forms hyperdimensionally. Next slide. So we touched previously, we touched on the endocrine system and its relationship to the chakras when we looked at the human aura. I needed to address this specifically as we lead into some other information here moving forward.
Why study chakras? Why is this important? In the 40 years that I've been working with this system, I've looked at it through the lens of a psychologist, through meditation, through yoga, through many different spiritual disciplines. I've come to see that the chakras describe the architecture of the soul. Just like we would study the body and we would study the bones and the muscles and the organs, well, to study the soul, we need to study its architecture. You could say that the chakra system forms the link between heaven and earth. That is the link that we talk about when we say yoga means union. The chakra system is the structure of the soul, whereby that union between mortal and immortal, spirit and matter, mind and body, the way that union is created.
So this leads into other aspects. So here we have, this link, if you will, to other dimensions through these chakra energy vortexes. So what do we have that's tangible that, we're touching on areas that a lot of people feel are kind of like woo-woo or just not really scientific. So what do we have that we can actually tangibly see or test, or, with my background, you need to test it. You need to, how can we put our fingers on this? What can we see? So there's a tool available among many.
There is now additional technology available to assist in reading the chakras. A new device called the BioWell, invented by Russian scientist Konstantin Korotkov, is able to scan the chakras from a person's fingertips using an electrophotonic imaging technique. The reading is then registered by a computer program and analyzed by a practitioner to see what is out of alignment. It is said by experts that out-of-balance chakras can manifest as physical illnesses or emotional imbalances when we are not in alignment with our life experiences.
The chakras are not able to roll, and that stuck the chakras, and it becomes an illness, sick. So every process that we think is something bad that is happening to us is not because someone is sending that to us, it's because we are stuck in the process of not understanding why we choose this experience.
So how do you balance a chakra once its energy has gotten blocked, stagnant, or too open? Well, there are many ways to correct these imbalances, including meditating on the out-of-balance chakra, eating foods that are of the same color or vibration, using tuning forks or other instruments that hold the same frequency of the chakra, working on stuck emotions in the area of the chakra, doing certain yoga, tai chi, or qigong practices that stimulate the energy of the chakra, using herbs or essential oils, getting a reflexology, acupuncture, or Reiki session, and more. There are.
So here we're dealing with that same chi energy, but these are specific focus points within our bodies that we can have the power to heal. And if you are visiting a doctor and your doctor has not integrated the chakra system into your overall health, because they can really tell a very fine-tuned story about your overall health, you're having a disservice. I'll just say that much. So you should really consider integrating this into your life. So previously we've dealt with this whole body of physiology, but what does that mean? Well, if you remember back at the beginning with the interaction from other star systems, they've been sending these messages for a very long time. And this is a short clip from Bringers of the Dawn, Barbara Marciniak's book. And this is a message from the Pleiadians, specifically regarding our chakras, our DNA, and other information. Check this out.
Before you came into the body, all of you committed to designing events that would fire your codings or blueprints that would activate your memories. Then you came into the body and you forgot. All of you have had your blueprints and codings fired to some extent because you understand that there is a divine purpose or divine plan that you are a part of. You hold the history of the universe within your physical body. What is occurring upon the planet now is the literal mutation of your physical body, where you are allowing it to be evolved to a point where it will be a computer that can house this information. The firing of the codings and the realization of your identity are going to become phenomenally intense. The reason for this is the evolving DNA. When you have 12 helixes of DNA in place, those helixes will begin to plug into the 12 chakra system. The 12 chakras are vortex centers loaded with information that you must be able to translate.
Okay. Another message, a lot of people here are probably familiar with Alex Collier, and I'm trying to paint a picture that what these other civilizations are trying to communicate to us is a much bigger picture about who and what we are. Listen to Alex Collier here.
It is the Andromedan perspective that all of us on this planet, regardless of our nationality and our country, are genetic royalty. That we are genetic royalty. That virtually everything you've been told about yourself is bunk, is a lie. That you are in fact spiritual beings and you are genetic royalty. I want to remind you that your soul, first and foremost, the shell is just something we use so that we can move through and experience third density and fourth density and fifth density.
So here we have consistency across different time frames, across different interstellar neighbors, across, you know, we've got Errol, we got Jesus, we got the Pleiadians, we've got the Andromedons, and it continues to go on. And they've been telling us all this stuff for a very long time. And so we're trying to formulate this picture of us being much more than what we have been led to believe that we actually are. So this leads into the second part of this presentation. I know that one took a long time, but I needed that foundation to lead us into this one. So here we're going to basically dip our toes into some esoteric information regarding consciousness. Now, this picture might look familiar to a lot of people. If you haven't seen it, this is called the Flammarion engraving. This is from a book called in France called The Atmosphere. It's written by Camille Flammarion. And it's a visual representation of a part of the book that deals with this experience this person had. A missionary in the Middle Ages tells us that in one of his voyages in search of the terrestrial paradise, he reached the horizon where the earth and the heavens met, and he discovered a certain point where they were not joined together, and where by stooping he passed under the roof of the heavens. Now, for me, you know, you could interpret these in a wide variety of ways when you start looking at art and different things. For me, in the esoteric realm, this is pulling back the veil, activating ourselves on a higher consciousness level, kind of like when Neo woke up from the Matrix. He's seeing what's been hidden from us behind this veil. And that's where we're touching into the deeper aspects of our subconscious, of our higher consciousness, and a bunch of other stuff. So this is pretty important. Now, the occult, which simply means hidden, the cabal, have utilized hidden knowledge from all of us. And I've touched on a few different components of our physiology. And believe me when I say this, the cabal knows far, far more information than they've let on to believe or let us on to understand about ourselves. You can see here from this picture's from The Occult Anatomy of Man by Manly P. Hall, where it draws out the human physiology, where they're dealing with the chakras and other energy systems and a whole bunch of other information. So they have a very, very deep understanding, and they already know all of this stuff that I've been sharing with you that they've kept hidden. And they've weaponized that ignorance against us. So it behooves us to start learning these things, to be able to protect ourselves, to be able to activate these things that are dormant within us, and just to get a higher level of understanding. Next slide. Okay, so moving on from Alex Collier and the Pleiadians and the Andromedons, there's another message from our interstellar neighbors regarding your higher self is basically running the show. And this slide you have to click multiple times. So click next.
Okay.
And their message starts off with, never forget that you are not a human being with consciousness, but rather you are consciousness presently utilizing a material body that is necessary for living in this denser energy of Earth. And we're seeing a consistent message. You know, we're talking about density, third density, fourth density, fifth density, and so on. These messages are coming in from not only this dimension or this density, but other densities. And it's been happening. You'll see the consistency and the consilience between these messages over time from different civilizations. Realize that consciousness is the substance of form, not intellectual knowledge of truth. It's important, this is where we start our healing process. It's important to set aside a particular time to state the intention to clear all oaths, promises, vows, or commitments made in this life and all past lives for they can bind you to a particular energy. Now, this statement might, ruffle a few feathers, because we're talking about, without saying it, we're talking about reincarnation. Well, if we live forever, if we're immortal, meaning we are eternal, we're going from host to host. We are basically living multiple lives. And one thing to note about this is that topic, the topic of reincarnation, was removed from the Bible a very long time ago. It was deeply discussed and accepted as fact a long time ago. It's been removed from our culture. You are beings of light disguised as human. So here we have a consistent message between Errol, between Jesus, between the Pleiadians, between the Andromedans. Care to guess who this message is from? The Arcturians. So multiple civilizations are telling us the same thing, that we are far, far more amazing than what we've ever understood ourselves to be. And this is the apex level of knowledge that the cabal is desperate, and they are extremely desperate to keep this under wraps. They don't want us to not only know this, but to activate ourselves, to activate our light bodies, to awaken entirely. It's important to remember that you are not your body. You're not your elbow, your knee, or anything like that. This is a vehicle. You are your higher consciousness. Your spirit is who you are. That's the real you. Your spirit basically animates this agreed embodiment of group consciousness that is animating our body. You are the I am. So in the Majestic disclosure document, we're extending consciousness in its relationship with DNA, because like other components of our physiology, our consciousness and our different parts work cohesively. And one of those things that's highlighted from the Majestic disclosure document is our exo-consciousness is the energy matrix that makes the fabric of what we perceive as reality, that originates from each of our consciousnesses. We're basically projecting this reality from our DNA. Our ISBE is the mind-body connection for source. Your DNA is a computer program, and collective consciousness is all that consciousness is the same. The brain filters out that we can't see with the mind's eye. So we're literally projecting our physical reality in this arena that we're living in. Next slide. This other component related to DNA and consciousness, I thought was extremely important because of what they say here. DNA is a geometric shape with a universal language of information captured inside it. Once you can visualize the interior structure and see, like in Masonic temples depict, the electrical energy movement patterns, you can actually manifest the object in your mind. Once you see it, you can then imagine yourself duplicating the image before you, except in your mind, you're holding the object in your hand, like out in front of you. And you imagine your mind scanning the object like a scanning machine, like a 3D printer, and the output is literally in your hands. With enough concentration and will and practice, most important of all, is the strength of your will. You can literally manifest this thing in your real hands before your physical eyes. So that hints on okay, well, what are we talking about here? Because there's only air and all this other stuff. Well, no, our environment that we actually live in is also another component of this bigger picture, and we'll get into that in a minute. So on the consciousness front, I needed to highlight this individual, Robert Monroe. The reason for it all will become clear later on. Robert, when he was younger, and this is back in the 50s and 60s, he experienced out-of-body experiences as well as near-death experiences. And it troubled him very deeply. And so he pursued trying to understand it. And he went to, his doctor and asked him about it. He's like, the doctor's telling him, well, you can go off and live in an ashram over in India for 10 years and you'll probably get your answer. He's like, no, I've got a family here. I don't want to leave. And so he was motivated to try and get an understanding of these experiences that he had. And his research led to the creation of the Monroe Institute, where he created what's called the Gateway Experience. And that technology behind the Gateway Experience is called Hemisync. So that I tell you that as a basis to tell you what's next. So Robert's work was so successful that the CIA got involved and they wanted to understand what was going on. And so they sent a guy over there, William McDonnell, and he did a review of this material, of this program. And it was so profound that he went off on a very deep quantum physics level of research that took him some time. And this document, you can actually go read it in the hub. It's also in the CIA reading room. What came back from this was what I'm going to talk about next. And you'll see that one little sentence right there. It says, the universe is composed of interacting energy fields, some at rest and some in motion. It is in and of itself one gigantic hologram of unbelievable complexity. Now, for those that have never touched on the esoteric or the Gnostic information, this might be a shock. What do you mean? We're living in a hologram? Yes. Well, this is not new. The teachings, these secret society teachings, these mystery schools have known this for a very long time. And that's what they've been teaching people to help understand. This is what, when you start applying this knowledge into this arena, knowing that you're spirit, knowing that you're in a hologram, and you can utilize this information to do what would seemingly appear to be magic. And it's not, you're just utilizing a clearer understanding of the environment, of who and what you are and the environment in which you're actually in. So I told you about this, the CIA assessment of the Gateway Experience to show you this. So we're dealing with higher levels of consciousness, deep transcendental stuff. Well, this NATO document is a really, really fantastic read. It's only like 8 pages, but it's well worth your time. And we're talking about a military operation that deals with shamanic, transcendental stuff. We're dealing with Doctor Strange, and if you've seen the series Stranger Things, this is the type of stuff that they're engaged with, actually interacting with other creatures in other dimensions that are trying to control Earth. So this battle for Earth that's going on right now, it's literally multidimensional, hyperdimensional, and we're involved in it on a intergovernmental level. And so this is the very short report, but it's actually an incredible read, because they're having these communications with other entities and the Anunnaki, and it's an incredible read, which is related to a lot of the esoteric and Gnostic information that I cover in the hub. Definitely worth your time. Another aspect that highlights on the consciousness thing, if you get a chance, check this book out. It's incredible. Deals with remote viewing. And I wanted to highlight one specific part of this book that's very conciliatory with this particular part of this conversation, where Dr. King basically says, this is what you must remember. We are not just human, we are spirit. The body is but a vehicle of transportation in this dimension. Again, here we have something that's consistent across time and all this information. You are a spirit that has found themselves as a bipedal mammal with a short lifespan. You are equipped with 2 frontal lenses, your eyes, and 2 lateral resonance chambers, your ears, which allow you enough visual and auditory cues to allow for a crude spatial orientation to its immediate local environment. The limit and restrictions of perception via humanoid bodies offers the safe boundaries of the placebo home. I like that fact that he's using that description, the placebo home, because really this is temporary. You know, our eternal self, who we really are, is the real home. But this is just another example of that message that we're actually spirit. A really important book that I'd recommend, and the audiobook is also in the hub. It's read by a guy that I'm going to cover here in a little bit. You remember how early on, when we were watching those little green energy dots pull apart conducting cellular mitosis with the human kidney cells? And I said to remember shimmering moats. So in this book, Yeshua ben Joseph is talking about his time in the desert. And what he's talking about here is what he's actually seeing as he is starting to see the real world around him that's been hidden. He's basically waking up. So his description, I think, is worth mentioning here. At times, my human sight was so spiritually heightened, I could see through rocks and earth and sand. These now appeared to be only a shimmer of tiny motes, which is a reflection of what those green energy things. We're talking about collective consciousness that is formulating our reality. I realized that nothing was really solid. I realized that nothing is solid in the universe, and everything visible was manifesting a different state of consciousness. So here we're talking about the deepest levels of consciousness that are formulating within our reality. And that determined a composition in the form of the shimmering motes. And he concludes, he's like, therefore, all outer form was an expression of inner consciousness. Again, our reality is a manifestation of consciousness, not the other way around. So I could go on for hours talking about different components of consciousness, and believe me, there's so much more in the esoteric arena. That topic alone, you could spend a lifetime on. But I wanted to highlight those key components about the relationship with our physiology and those things within us, and the consciousness that is overseeing and having that relationship. Now I want to show you some tools that you can utilize to have a better understanding and to basically pursue this activity if you so choose. It's your right to reclaim your birthright. So a lot of people have a different idea of what it means for the Great Awakening. You've heard that term. I'm like everybody else. I've got my own opinion, but based on the fact that we're described as spirit, as gods here on earth incarnate, this is my definition. If we're all asleep right now, what if a planet full of sleeping gods were to wake up? I think that's what we're experiencing right now. So one of the tools that I've put into the hub is the Hemisync information. And here is Lori Monroe, that's Robert Monroe's daughter, and she's going to describe what this technology is and what it does in a really short, concise way.
The Hemisync audio guidance process works quite simply by sending different tones to each ear by stereo headphones. The two hemispheres of the brain then act in unison to hear a third signal, the difference between the two tones. This is not an actual sound, but an electrical signal that can only be perceived within the brain by both brain hemispheres working together. First, you will hear a tone in your right ear. Now we will play a tone of a slightly different frequency in your left ear. The slight differences in the tones cause your brain to create a third sound, a wavering sound that is not on the recording. This tone is the difference between the tones you are hearing in your right and left ears. These wavering sounds encourage your brain to move from functioning in a state of random brainwave activity, which looks like this, to a balanced, focused, and highly synchronized brainwave pattern, which looks like this. As an analogy, lasers produce focused, coherent light. Hemisync produces a focused, coherent mind, which is an optimal condition for improving human performance.
So this tool obviously is very powerful. And if the CIA and these other agencies are utilizing this technology with, they're using some drugs and other techniques, it gives you an idea of the power that's involved with what's going on here. So over time, I've placed the Gateway Experience program, and it's a set of 9 different let's see, yeah, there's nine of them in total, and they build on each other. So this is a deep healing. This is a method to reach into your subconscious. To it's basically a really wonderful tool to help you awaken up, to activate components, to do left and right brain synchronization. It's an incredible. All of these are in the hub, along with the documentation that's available for you if you so choose. It's one of many tools that are available. Another aspect of what's available in the hub is there's roughly, I think at this point, about 152 different Hemisync music albums that utilize this technology, and they address a whole wide variety of different issues, whether it's ADHD, cancer recovery, a wide variety of things. And it's there for people to start to not only to have this brain hemisphere synchronization, but to start healing at a much deeper level in our subconscious, because there's tremendous help available within this collection, and it's continuing to grow. Also in the hub is a body of knowledge in not only books, but audiobooks as well, that cover the esoteric or the Gnostic, as well as some ancient knowledge that the Cabal does a really, really excellent job of trying to conceal this information from us. But this body of knowledge helps go much deeper than this short 1-hour presentation. That I just cannot do it enough justice. What you'll learn here goes much, much further into each of these topics and a lot more that I've discussed, and gives you a foundation to build on. It's an absolutely priceless collection. I cannot recommend it enough. Worth your time. I've touched on chakras before, but one of the tools that I want to highlight is from this guy. His name's Gene. He's on YouTube. He runs, his name's Gene Hart. He runs Astral Doorway channel on YouTube. So in all my time investigating these topics, whether it's chakras or this other information I've shared, specifically related to the chakras, this playlist is really fundamental in trying to get a baseline understanding. It's beautifully illustrated. It is an incredible collection of how our bodies and our consciousness interact together, our physiology. And he paints, he addresses each individual chakra, but then he goes into more information about awakening, the process of which we can apply this information to our life. And this is just one of many playlists that are available. I think this is one of the most beautiful, I think, and a good introductory start for those that have never looked at this information. I think this is second to none, and it's quite beautiful. Definitely worth your time. And it's kind of a visual representation of when all of this is applied, the process of this awakening, what it feels like, what it might look like. Another resource in the hub is a series. It came out just a couple months ago called Sacred Geometry and Spiritual Science. And this body of knowledge is very ancient. This is what has another topic that has been desperately withheld from public, because there's a lot of power in this information that I'm sharing with you. This is a trailer for the series to help describe what's contained in it.
This is a journey of empowerment.
we will explore together the hidden patterns which manifest everything in physical existence. By learning how to work with subtle energy patterns known to ancient traditions, you can initiate an alchemical transformation within yourself. This process can empower your individual evolution of consciousness and thereby assist the raising of consciousness on our planet. Sacred geometry meaning the divine blueprints of consciousness and energy. Please be aware that this can be an extremely powerful practice, which can accelerate your path of personal evolution and can even beneficially transform your spiritual destiny.
So this series is it was like 18 episodes. It builds on knowledge between each one, just like some of the other series. Definitely worth your time, at least getting your feet wet into some of this higher level knowledge in the esoteric realm. One person in particular that I wanted to mention is Mark Passio. In particular, his documentary called Natural Law. Mark has been involved in providing some of the most amazing information on Earth. He runs that website, whatonearthishappening.com. Now, he was a priest. He was a satanic priest for a long time, and he got caught up on it. Religion made him angry for a variety of reasons, and he went into that not knowing what he was getting involved with. And when he realized what he was involved with, he got out and he swore that he was going to expose all these secrets about how we have been controlled. His information is second to none. It is a good introduction to a lot of this information on information us understand some of the tricks that these people have been utilizing over humanity. Incredible information, a body of knowledge like no other. Definitely, please watch that Natural Law documentary. It's in the hub. Another resource that's in the hub, at least some of it, is his name's Barry Peterson, and his YouTube site is his YouTube page is giving voice to the ages to the wisdom of ages. His primary site is audioenlightenment.com, and Barry's a professional narrator, and he's basically reading books that. They're incredible. I can't do justice enough. He's reading a lot of esoteric literature, and he's got that very warm, welcoming, voice that you just like listening to. But he's reading incredible books. Definitely recommend. There's several in the book, several in the hub, and I've taken different excerpts and put them in there. Definitely worthwhile investment of your time. A great resource. So this is where I say, if there's one thing and one thing only that you take from this presentation about these topics, this series, this film series, Samadhi, part 1 through 3, part 4 hasn't come out yet. They're still working on it. I myself I cannot stress this enough. This body of knowledge presented in these 3 films, I believe to be the esoteric foundation that you're going to find at the core essence of what we're going through with the Great Awakening. This is, I feel, the most beautiful telling of spirituality that you can come across. And it provides a deeper understanding of really who we are. And also in here, these are of all of the tags, because nearly everything in the hub is tagged for search purposes. These 12 tags really highlight everything that I've talked about today, and they cross-reference not only each other but some other information. So everything that presented today is in the hub under one or more of these particular tags, and it helps define this information. There's a lot of overlap to help you build on this information. I was going to put another slide in here, but I wanted to include this one. And I wanted to preface before we close. We are on the cusp of going into a new civilization. You could view it as Lemuria meets Atlantis. And what other civilizations, I cannot remember exactly where I heard this warning, but I think it's worth saying again, because as we move forward, we're going to have over 6,000 sealed patents that are going to be released to the public, and you're going to see incredible technology, flying cars, all that stuff. But I want to highlight one thing, that if we get away from our spirituality, if we don't reclaim, I should say, if we don't reclaim it and protect it, we're going to fall like other civilizations have in the past, because spirituality technology without spirituality is a doomed path. So tread carefully when it comes to technology, and not have it lead you away from your higher self. And I think that's all I had to present for today in the given time. So I want to say thank you very much for allowing me to present this information to you.
Well, we have about 7 minutes left. I'm going to open the last 7 minutes for anybody that has comments or questions. I think you did an outstanding job. Thank you so very much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I have a question. Is the Enlightenment books in audio form?
Some are, yeah, some are. I try, whenever I'm sharing some really incredible information, like with Barry's stuff, Barry Peterson, when he's narrating a book on YouTube, I'll go try to find the original book and put it in there with it. I can't do that all the time. There's been some that I just couldn't find, but I do try to get both audio and PDF format or EPUB format, a digital format if I can find it. And I try to find the highest quality. A lot of this stuff, believe it or not, is on Archive, the archive.org website. But yeah, I do try to give that both versions.
Another question. You said that on the alien interview was one of your first posts. Is that a pinned post?
Yeah, it should be pinned. I think that's the #1 pin. If it's not, you just go all the way back to the beginning of the hub. You'll see it. It's like it's the first document that's in the hub.
Can you also tell everybody how to find you on Majestic 12 Hub and explain to them what pinned means?
Oh, okay. I can't share the screen right now, but within Telegram, up near the top, there's a little pinned icon. They're like bookmarks. So over the course of these little over 2 years, I have there's roughly 30 items throughout this body of knowledge that I felt important enough to bookmark so that people could utilize that information and have a starting point. Those, I think, are the most important. Yeah, oh, here we go. You've got it on your screen. So if you go into the hub, that's the chat. So find the hub.
Oh.
You type in the search bar, you'll just type in hub.
This is great because you'll be able to maybe walk somebody through how to get through the hub.
Yeah, so if you maximize this, I think it's a green button. All right. Okay, so there at the top, where it says pinned messages, there's 2 ways to view this. One, if you just touch the pinned message right there, just touch that, it'll take you and touch it again. You'll just start going through each of the pinned messages. Now, over on the far right, you see that little pin right there? If you open that, now these are the 30, you see right there, 30 pinned messages, and you can scroll through these. So if you scroll all the way to the top, right there is the alien interview. And there's the Majestic disclosure document right there too.
So can you go back and show how you got to the pin now?
Yeah, so right there at where her cursor is right there. So Chella is driving right now. So she's circling where it's reading pin message number 27. If you click on that part, it takes you one to the next, and again and again and again. But over on the far right, where that little pin icon is, that'll open up a list of all of those 30 messages. And these messages are a basic, I feel the most important to get people started. There's certainly important, other important information. I don't want to say that the other information is not important, but over time, I feel as though these are certainly way up there. Now, what you're looking at here is the library. Okay, so when you click on the header and you scroll down, you'll see these different things, and it functions a little differently on your phone because it has a really nice pinch to zoom thing. And it's behaving differently on Mac OS than it is for this, but you can scroll through time here, look at all these different features. And what's nice, if you go back over, just for this example, go back over to the media page, the media tab, and if you click and hold on one item, it should give you the option somewhere to show message right there, and that will take you directly to that message in the hub, and you can go back and forth. So that's one way to navigate the site. The other way is with the tags, which is a really, really powerful feature. So here's a perfect example. If you're in the hub, go back into the hub.
We're down to 2 minutes.
Okay.
Go in the hub.
Yeah, right there where it says Hemisync, right below that picture. Right below that picture, right there. If you click Hemisync, this will open up a window that you can basically search on all of the topics under that tag. It's a search mechanism, so it's pretty powerful. Any other questions?
I want to thank you. You have been so inspiring, and your message tonight is so deep. I want to thank all the viewers that are here. I appreciate your patience through the beginning of our presentation, and I just want to let you know that this will be edited. I will place everything together, and I will try to get it up tomorrow at 7 p.m. as a movie. And I'll make sure that I have that finished for you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing such wonderful information. You did a wonderful job.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you everybody for showing up.
Look in your chat. You have messages in the chat room too, Shad.
And thank you, Light, for offering to help us earlier. I appreciate you for that.
Sure, I gotta give him a hard time. So,
and everybody is free to open up your mics. And if you guys want to just one at a time, ask Shad a few questions or make a few comments. The other chat that we had with the questions have disappeared, but you're free to go ahead and you have the floor. I will go ahead and I'm gonna ask to unmute everybody.
I have a question. Hello, lovely, beautiful people. So what technology are you most excited to potentially see rolling out with the 6,000 different patents being released?
Great
question. Oh, man.
Free energy, it runs it all.
Ask a hard question. Oh, man. Excuse me. Gosh. Well, first of all, it's hard to answer that question because we don't know what they're going to release. I have no idea of this body of knowledge that's been repressed. There's some talk about it during that what was it, that citizen hearing, where you can there's a scientific community website that talks about these patents essentially that have been sealed, and they talk about different areas. I'm very excited about anti-gravity. I'm very excited about like these med beds, this technology, but as cool as all of these technology platforms are, what you're going to be shocked to learn about is a lot of this technology stems from what's inside of us. We're the really cool technology.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, I think the most exciting part of this whole thing. As cool as these new toys, these, you know, I've been in tech most of my life, you know, and I used to work in a research and development lab for Samsung Mobile, and so I had all the latest gizmos and gadgets, and I was tickled to death all the time. Every day was a playground. But you get to a point where as many toys as you have, it kind of just loses its fizzle after a while.
There's still toys.
Yeah, there's still toys at the end of the day. You know, obviously I want to, I'm a pilot, so I want to be in that playground in the air, you know, because we talk about living in this hologram, this energy. If I was to describe it to a 5-year-old, I would say we are angels living in this light holographic matrix where it's basically a sandbox, and this is their playground. And when we are able to activate that component of our higher consciousness by meditation and learning these esoteric truths, we're going to have a lot of fun. But it takes steps. It takes a dedication. It's an individual journey that each individual must decide on themselves. You can't be forced into it. If you're not ready for it, you're not ready for it. There was a really great picture I saw. I can't remember that it was described or who wrote it, but it was basically this guy sitting down and his hair is on fire, and the caption was basically, "Don't get into this stuff if you're not motivated like your hair is on fire to, you know, pursue truth at all costs. That should be like your number one thing." I'm excited, I guess, just on the totality of the magnitude of what's in store for everybody, with what we're about to go through. You know, I've been following these sealed indictments very closely for the last few years, and the latest update happened, I think, yesterday, and we're at 368,000 or something like that.
Really?
368,000 sealed indictments is just absolutely astronomical. You know, it's never been like that in our history. So we're going to see some really cool things. It's going to be scary for a lot of people, but what's on the other side of this is going to be incredible as far as this technology and what Earth is going to look like. You know, it's going to be a big party.
Agreed. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
How can we support you?
Well, thank you for asking. I do have a donation site on, I think it's Ko-fi, and I've put that in the hub. There's a link in there. I'd have to go, if you have the link. I don't have the link with me right now.
Chad's really bad at asking for support.
Let me get the link, and I can.
When you find it, can you just put it in the chat room for everyone, please?
I can. I'll look for that while we're talking.
I had to run out for a minute, but where's all the cryon content? Did I miss it?
I ran. If I started putting more content, which I wanted to, I was going to go way over time. There's just so much more. That's the hardest part about this entire thing has been. There's so much to cover. Cryon has an incredible body of knowledge, and Barry's topic alone, I could have a channel just on Barry's stuff alone. It's mind-boggling.
Barry's actually been doing
What is it called?
joint interviews.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What is it called that I'm looking up here for your information?
To support you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I've got a donation site on a it's a thing called Ko-fi, but like Buy Me a Coffee, and I'm actually trying to find it right now. ko-fi.com/Majestic 12 Hub. There we go. Oh yeah, Light put it in the chat. Yeah, it's this work really has been more of a work of passion, and it was a bit of a struggle. Like a lot of people encouraged me to try and reach out for help, and I felt the information was much more important. But I was living on nickels and dimes for a long time, so any help is tremendously appreciated.
Anybody else?
Do you have any other meetings planned around the nation?
I have been asked to give these presentations with Connecting Consciousness group. I think the next one that I haven't been scheduled yet, but I heard they want to have me present in November and potentially later on. There is talk of they want me to present in a few states, so we'll see if that happens.
I have a
Sure,
question.
I want to iron out all these these technical glitches so we don't have these in the future. This was definitely a learning experience.
It was for me also because it was my first time, but I love the challenge. It was definitely a challenge. We made it through it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to see the end result, what the recording is, how it comes out, because the audio for me was a little difficult to hear.
It'll be fine on my end.
Okay.
It was perfect.
I have a question. This is Liz.
Okay.
Did you see my question in the chat about the Earth?
Oh, no, I wasn't looking at the chat. Oh, the flat Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think that topic is kind of a distraction, and there's reasons why I say that. And you can go to the Q post that he was basically flat out asked, is the Earth flat? Q said no. Majestic, in the Majestic document, which the tweets themselves, you can go back to the source material, talked about it extensively. No, it's not. I guess one retort that I would have on that topic alone is, what exactly is a flat Earth when you're living in a hologram?
Yeah.
I think that's if you're spirit and you're playing around in a hologram that you have the power of totally manipulating at will based on your higher consciousness, does it matter? Because I think that topic itself, as passionate as people are about it, and some people can be flat out mean, it's a time succubus, because we've got other problems that are much more important. Like, dealing with your, waking up, focusing on your inner self and addressing some of these problems. It doesn't matter if we're on a flat Earth or not. The short of it is we're still stuck on this rock. We got to live together and fix these problems. That, whether it is or not, I don't think it's really is at this point really that important. The important thing is that we care about each other and that we work toward something greater for our future, our collective future.
I've got a question.
Sure.
Okay, so I keep hearing about we're living in a hologram, and then of course just brought it up now too, and I'm like, that is a very confusing subject for me, because I always see everything in spirituality. I'm understanding we create our realities, and when I say we create our realities, that makes me wonder, how the hell are we not? I picture holographic, like we do see it in the shows like Star Trek crap. So it's so confusing.
So what I guess what's your question?
My question is, can you explain to me what you deem a holographic experience or a holographic that we're living? I'm trying to understand the concept of it, other than a TV show.
Okay, so part of what you're saying was cut off, but I think I've got the point. You're trying to get a visual understanding or a comprehension of what it means being a spirit in a hologram. This topic alone is it's a gigantic rat nest for those that have never even considered this idea. I shared a particular episode. Think of it this way. There's a particular episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation where Data, he wanted to, he liked playing the role of Sherlock Holmes, and he was looking for the most challenging opponent. And the episode was on, the character was Moriarty. And Moriarty realized that he was living in a hologram, the holodeck, and that he wanted to get off of it. So that whole topic of what you're talking about is addressed in that episode, and it's really a mind trip, because at the end of the episode, he is captured and he thinks that he's free, but he's in this little box and he's off and running in his what he thinks is his own playground of the universe, but he's in a different hologram.
Wow.
And I mean, there's so much information on this topic. I don't know if Light's still in the conversation or not, but he's got some good thoughts on this too. Yeah, he's muted.
I just asked to unmute him.
Oh, there we go. There's a lot of sci-fi films, and this is, how could I forget this one? So if you have the opportunity, and I didn't touch on this, but this is one of the biggest recommendations that I could make, to dedicate some time to watching Stargate SG-1, because part of that series deals with holograms, and I guess it's an entrapment for your mind, but we live in layered holograms, to my understanding. And this is a light matrix, and this is touched on in a lot of the esoteric literature. It gets very, very deep, and they touch on it. Yeshua ben Joseph in the Christ Letters talks about it. There's a lot of literature, and so for me to try and say this is the way it is, I think does a disservice to you, because I'm still trying to wrap my head around a lot of it myself, and I don't want to ruin your journey. I understand that we're in it. How it functions, that's a completely different story. I don't know.
Exactly.
I mean, it boggles the mind, but there's actual physics presentations, like quantum physicists and stuff giving TED Talks and all these other, there's articles, there's a whole bunch of information. And I've shared a little bit of it. And the idea for touching on this and so many other topics is, the idea with me sharing this information in the hub is not to say this is the truth. It is to tickle your curiosity so that you're able to utilize your intuition, your discernment. Like, this doesn't feel right. Like, follow that intuition.
Okay.
Because we're all trying to make sense of a lifetime of lies. And I don't want to do an injustice to this. I want to know myself, but here's the one of the traps that I'm nervous about, not only for myself but for other people, because all of these things that you're curious about, you could get lost in doing a deep dive into any of this information, and you're missing the point. Because the deep dive is within yourself through meditation, pursuing the, if you watch the Samadhi films, all of these questions that you have, everything can be answered, because when you reach enlightenment through meditation, through these spiritual practices that are very ancient, you have access to, think of it this way. If we're in a hologram, and all of this information is being recorded and stored in this facility or this record keeping library, and you're in this hologram, you have through your pineal gland access to this information directly. I've firsthand experience watching somebody do it. It blew me away. And we all have this capability. So, however this light quantum matrix works, I would butcher trying to explain it all. But it's an exciting thought experiment.
It is.
But for me, like, I try to simplify it. If I can't explain something to a 5-year-old, then I don't know it.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
But yeah, I love the question. I wish I could give a better answer. It's
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 okay.
way over my head.
That's okay. You know, I just feel like it's kind of embedded in us anyway. We've been taught that all these years. And how could you imagine a flat earth, really? I mean, would there be an edge you could fall off? I mean, that doesn't
Well,
seem real, you know.
yeah,
So
and
you have to
what's
use
really
your brain a little bit.
yeah, one there's I put some film series. There's a lot of documentaries and film movies and TV shows in the hub, and one of them I can't remember the name of it. Not Douglas Adams, but it was another one where they're dealing with the flying turtle through space with the elephants on his back holding the flat earth.
Yeah.
the great Atun. So but yeah, the visuals of how of all of us, you know, with all of our collective experiences around the world throughout history, trying to explain these virtually inexplicable things, living in this reincarnation soul harvesting trap that we've been living in. It's like, oh, you know, what's the biggest priority here? And I think the way out is going within. You know, that's where we get the answers that we're looking for.
That sounds good to me, and it makes sense. Something I've never done that I think I probably will start is meditating.
Mm-hmm.
I've never done that. Never been around it.
There's a lot of really excellent information. The first place, again, I cannot recommend this enough, is starting with the Samadhi films. And the guy, his channel is Awaken the World Films or something like that.
Okay.
And he has meditation resources. In fact, there's a lot of different meditation resources out there. And saying, you know, one resource is better than the other is kind of useless because everybody is different. You have to find what works for you.
Yeah.
But we have been so deceived here in the Western culture about you know, reincarnation and meditation. Oh, that's of the devil, and that's the trap. That's the kicker of what they've done to us is to deceive us from looking within ourselves. Because what I was trying to show within this presentation is that God is within us.
Oh,
like it's like you can't say there's you know, and I wasn't an atheist. I was against some of the crimes of the church with these children, and it enraged me to the point, like with Mark Passio, it enraged him. And I became an anti-theist. I was really a fond admirer of Christopher Hitchens, and I learned a ton. And they exposed a lot of the crimes of the church, which definitely needed to happen.
Yes.
But what I've learned in these philosophy classes and all this other stuff of deep research is there is a boundary. And I didn't know this back then. There is a boundary that they don't talk about. They will not trespass across the esoteric boundary. They just don't. It doesn't even come up in conversation. So whether you're watching a Christian versus an atheist in a debate, you know, there's thousands of them online, they will not trespass on this area, on this arena of knowledge. And it's a shame because it's incredible information. And it shows flat out just how incredible we are. It's exciting and reinvigorating to like, oh my gosh, here's a body of knowledge I didn't know existed, and it's telling us just how incredible we are. Why isn't this taught in grade school? You know,
exactly.
So you know, this is our opportunity to not only learn this stuff, but to start dropping more seeds as this information is organically dispersed across humanity, because we have talents and gifts here in the Western culture just like they do in the Eastern cultures, and if we can combine those two harmoniously, we can like walk into the next era of human involvement with, you know, it's an incredible opportunity, and I'm excited to be a part of it. And I want to be able to be a motivating force for others to utilize that. I think we all can. Those people that are open-minded enough to have these conversations and listen to this information, I think is invaluable.
Yes, because there's some that aren't, and it's so sad because when you try, they just think you're crazy.
Absolutely.
You know,
And they don't understand, because a lot of the time it's fear-based. We have been conditioned that if you question this, your very soul is in eternal jeopardy, and it's a prison of the mind.
Yeah,
literally, it's a prison
that they've done to us. Yes.
Yes, I think that's been an overlay that has happened on us, that we continue to try to come back to ourselves. And one of my favorite quotes is, if I do not go within, I go without.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think the combination of, not to get too political, but the combination that's coming of Putin, Xi, and Trump are going to bring all of that together.
Yeah,
Well,
I
think so
believe.
too.
I think that's accurate.
It is very exciting, and it is a little scary because, you know, we've not been introduced to this kind of technology and what all it might mean for us.
Right.
And by the way, you've done a great job. I want to thank you so much.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm just a little curious. Was there a particular part of the presentation that touched you deeper than most?
Yes, I want to learn about the chakra and the meditation and those, I don't know what they're called, those pretty designs it was showing and the colors.
You're talking about the symbols for chakras?
Yes.
Yeah, that series, awakening the awakening the chakras.
Yes.
That's where those images are from. He talks about all of them, and he goes into great detail. And you know, one of the funny things about not only acquiring and collecting this information and putting it into the hub is that I forget a lot of this, and like, where did I see that before? So I'll have to go back and rewatch something, because it'll help build on another body of knowledge or another doorway that I've like, oh my God, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
So to me, and this is oh my gosh, there's so much I can talk about. Oh my God.
I know.
So,
I do the same thing. I'm like, where did I see that? I know I saw it.
Right. You're like, you know, for this has me thinking of a really beautiful transition. For a lot of people, they really need to operate on a level of being sure about, you know, what they think they know. They need security in believing a body of knowledge so that they have a foundation. And they're terrified when information is presented to them. They will fight tooth and nail against you and dismiss you. I've lost close friends and family over this, you know, I really have. And I've you know, and I was exposed. I was very fortunate to be exposed to information around the world that the general public will never see or ever hear about. And, you know, some really horrible stuff too.
Yeah.
And you try to, you know, some you can't tell exactly because you're in violation of secrecy laws. But you try to paint a picture like you don't understand this is really what's going on. No, they will refuse that outright. It doesn't matter if you showed them pictures. If they were standing in front of it watching it, they wouldn't believe it. And unfortunately, when you look at this from a higher level of the spiritual aspect of all this, which is what I have to continuously remind myself about this,
Mhm.
where I go back and I listen to Barbara Marciniak, I listen to Bashar, several other people that have been doing these channelings. Abraham Hicks comes to mind, and Dolores Cannon, of course, Dolores Cannon, and Cryon, and numerous others throughout history. And they're talking about, our soul journeys, where each soul that comes in and incarnates, what we're experiencing here, they're doing this for a specific purpose. We don't know that while we're here, because we haven't tapped into that knowledge.
Right.
But these people that are not waking up, okay, well, maybe their soul chose this path of not choosing this information to set a chain of events in place. We can't imagine all of the complexity of the decisions and the ramifications of those decisions and how those dominoes in the spider web fans out. We can't see it. And so we have to take a step back, and there's a lot of wisdom in the Far Eastern teachings, in the esoteric teachings, about learning detachment, being of the world but not in it, if that makes sense.
It does.
And allowing these decisions to take place. And when you're in the game, when you're seeing these horrible things, and you're like, oh my God, I want to make it stop. Then you pull yourself back, and you're like, okay, just come to center, calm down.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
so many examples.
Yes, I have some family and some friends. I guess they'll just have to wake up on their own somehow.
Yeah,
because they won't even discuss it. They look like you're crazy.
Right. And this has me thinking on one thing. You have the most effect on implementing change of other people by living the example and going through the process yourself. And people will see that. Whether, it's that there's several laws, if you will, natural laws, which I should list them all out. But when you are focused on making yourself better, by extension, how you treat other people, by how you project this inner energy. Are you saying one thing? Are you consistent with your words and actions? All of those very ancient teachings come into play. And this is part of the enlightenment and awakening process and the ascension process. And I'm certainly guilty of a lot of it. I have struggled, and I continue to struggle on a daily basis, just interacting with other people. But what is really empowering along these lines, from my own experience, is you remember some of these teachings and you realize you're dealing with other divine spirits. Remember, they've come in here for certain reasons. They've come in here for certain experiences, for soul growth experiences. The only one that you have control over is your own. And we want to apply the golden rule, just like any other thing. But we can view this at a higher perspective and appreciate it for just the majesty of what it is and what it entails. We are literally sparks of God. We're angels on earth. We have incarnated here for this experience of this reunification of separated spirits, to awaken and to go through this transcendence. And for a lot of people that want to do it, if they pursue that path, go through the ascension process. What does that even look like?
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
Actually, I was just thinking about that. Are we talking about when Christ comes back? That kind of.
Well, I'll save that question for you to read the Christ letters. How can I say this? If you can view Yeshua ben Joseph as someone who was trying to light a path I would recommend viewing him in a way of a way shower, because he didn't want, in my understanding, take this with a grain of salt, from everything that I've researched and come to understand, he wanted to tell the world about the things that he saw in the desert and to stop some of the criminal activity that he saw in Judea with these child sacrifices and all this other horrible stuff about sacrificing goats and just these ancient, really bizarre, really horrific things that he wanted to help put an end to. But the laws of the land at the time got him into a lot of trouble. But I view him as a way shower. He's walking on water. Hey, you can do that too. When you understand that you're an angel on earth and you're living in a sandbox of electro energy, that nothing's really solid, you can walk through walls. I didn't even touch on some of the other really cool aspects of our capabilities. I ran out of there's so much I could talk about. Let's list off, like, what are we talking about when we talk that we are gods? That, the Andromedans and the Arcturians and the Pleiadians and the Domain and Jesus, they're all talking about, like, we can do these amazing things. Well, what things can we do? Oh, how about remote viewing? How about telepathy? How about astral projection? How about being able to levitate? How about being able to, walk through walls and all this other stuff? It just goes on. How about the main thing? We can heal other people. Literally, you saw it on camera being recorded. They dissolved cancer.
That was awesome.
Do this. Yeah, I mean, and so,
Chad, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What do you think about the length of time of years of? Because I was told that, or I heard that our length of years are going to go into the hundreds, just like in Noah's day.
Oh, you're talking about how long can we live?
Yes.
Okay, so let's start with one little note on that topic.
We're down to 3 minutes.
Okay. Your body can regenerate. Your body does regenerate every 7 years. Every cell in your body regenerates every 7 years. So if you're regenerating and they're trying to kill you faster than you can regenerate, how long? Just without any other information, what does that tell you? Well, from the Majestic, even in the Majestic disclosure document, you can live past 1,000 years. We can. They have used genetic engineering to shorten our telomeres and screw with our DNA that shortened our lifespan. But with this ascension process, reactivation of our genetic code, we can live past 1,000 years. And wow. They've literally recently have in scientific circles have classified death as a disease. If we're not injured and we're not sick, we're constantly regenerating. And this is some of the teachings in some of these other books that I was blown away about, is they're going and doing these practices, these esoteric practices of sound therapy healing, which is what we have right now. We can do sound therapy right now.
Yeah.
We can do like the Rife machine and stuff like that. All of these technologies that are available but are repressed by the FDA and these other assholes that are running the show, we can do that right now. But they run the show, and that's why we have so many sealed indictments and all this other stuff. Once they're out of the way, boom, age regression. That's another one. You're losing hair. You can regrow your hair.
Oh,
so it's just all this amazing stuff, But the main thing here is it's the power of belief. If you believe you're sick, I feel horrible. Your thoughts are running the show. Remember, your thoughts are running the show. So if you're feeling like crap, and you tell yourself, I feel like crap, your words are spells. That's how this quantum holographic matrix is working. It's like magic. We have the power to control this. That's how powerful we are.
I have learned to not speak the negative.
Right.
We are down to our last 1 minute. I want to thank everybody here. I wish we could stay longer.
Me too.
Chad, you'll have to come back.
Oh, absolutely.
Come back for another presentation.
I could. I haven't
That would
prepped
be
any other
awesome.
ones, but if somebody, I mean, if somebody wants to give me ideas,
I-
reach out to me on
Ideas.
Telegram.
I can definitely get with you, and we can do some definitely ideas.
Mhm.
Yeah, we can brainstorm, definitely.
Okay.
Thank you for being here. Thank you to all the guests. You guys have been wonderful.
Thank you. So have you.
Yeah, without you guys, we wouldn't even want to be here. So, you know, next week for anybody that's in our EDU 101 or 102, I'm sorry, we will be doing Wednesday the 19th at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.